broadcasting out worldwide on over 100 AM and FM stations, XM, of course, global shortwave, WWCR, #1 when it comes to audio streams and podcasts, according to Alexa, Shoutcast, and many other metrics like Google Analytics. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday evening. It, of course, is 4 o'clock and 6 minutes Central Standard Time. And the reason I like to start the broadcast at least once a week, pointing out that we are reaching 3 million people by radio a day, over 1 million people a day by internet, website, and, of course, millions a week uncounted via YouTube and other systems, a total of 15 million plus a week and growing, is because it shows that people are hungry for hardcore reality-based information. It shows that that as a society, when people stand up and get involved and resist tyranny, that we're able to turn back what seems like unending waves of corruption. Now, we are joined by a gentleman who, well, broke major information, but he was also a survivor. He was the survivor of the underwear bombing 2 Christmases ago, about 1 year and 2 months ago now, or more. And, of course, his name is Kurt Haskell. Now, Kurt Haskell was flying back from Europe, and he was flying with his wife, who's also a lawyer, and he witnessed a sharp-dressed man getting who we now know as the underwear bomber on the aircraft. And then he witnessed a bunch of other weird behavior on the plane. He reported that he saw what looked like government people getting him on the aircraft, past security without proper ID, at the gate. And then for a month and a half, the media didn't cover it until, well, C-SPAN aired congressional hearings where the Undersecretary of State came out and admitted that they were ordered by an unnamed U.S. agency to get him on the aircraft. And joining us now to discuss this is Kurt Haskell. Obviously, the underwear bomber pled guilty. Was his family threatened? Is he mentally ill? As many people have said, well, we're not sure, but we do know that he was gotten on the aircraft and protected, and that whole thing was launched right as the naked body scanners were being rolled out against the population. So Kurt Haskell joins us now because as a victim, he was able to read into the court record his victim's statement where he was able to expose the fact that this was a false flag patsy event, and he told the underwear bomber, you are not a Muslim hero, you are a pathetic patsy, to paraphrase him. Kurt, thank you for joining us here today.
Sure, glad to be back, Alex.
These are short segments. We're going to break here in about 5 minutes. You've got the floor, but for new listeners, recap the basics of what happened in a few minutes and then get into the sentencing and what you said there. And finally, other than my show, you were able to get out some of the information of the cover-up.
Yeah. You want me to go back to what actually happened on the Christmas Day flight?
Well, you know what? Sherman, whatever you think is best. But, I mean, some people are like, hey, the guy's, said he did it, so case closed. Okay, well, why did the government get him on the aircraft? That's admitted.
Yeah, well, I saw him before we boarded, and I saw him, being escorted around security by a man in a tan suit who told the desk worker he didn't have a passport, and then they were sent to talk to a manager. And then all of a sudden he's on our flight trying to blow it up a few hours later. And that was just the start of it. And then, I talked to the FBI. I think I'm helping them catch an accomplice. I find out soon enough that they don't really want to talk to me. They lie about the existence of this man. Only a month later, then ABC News puts couple sentences in the bottom of another article where the government changes their story and now admits that he exists, but they try and portray him as an Al-Qaeda member helping the bomber, get through security, which was impossible because he had some kind of security clearance and went to the desk and said, hey, he's from Sudan. We do this all the time, helping him board without a passport. So I knew it wasn't Al-Qaeda at all, and then all the other anomalies, the Patrick Kennedy testimony in Congress where the government admitted that they knew he was a terrorist, had been tracking him, wanted to let him into the U.S. so they could follow him and catch other accomplices. There was that admission. There was a string of other so-called terrorist attacks where the government admitted to handing out fake bombs. We had his standby attorney, Anthony Chambers, admit that he had seen the reports from the explosive experts hired by the government, and those reports indicated that the bomb was impossibly defective because it lacked a blasting cap. And it goes on and on and on. I had another passenger call me and confirm that she saw exactly what I did, but she was too scared to come forward. And, and then we have all these measures put in place after this because of, a security breach. Well, but really there was no security breach at all except the one created by the government, but this was the incident that led to the body scanning machines. It led to the renewal of certain parts of the Patriot Act that were going to expire. And obviously...
And let's remember, they'd already pre-ordered the machines, but this happened about 2 weeks before the official rollout of them. Perfect PR timing. And as you've pointed out, it's the cover-up that's the evidence of the crime. It's them lying the whole time and then you being proven correct. It's the fact that they said, oh, the guy that helped get him on must have been Al-Qaeda. But then it turns out the U.S. government ordered the State Department to help get him the visa and all the rest of it and help get him on the aircraft. And then the trial, that's what really clinched it for you. Because I remember a year ago or more when we first were talking, you were about 99% sure. But you were telling me just a few weeks ago when we talked, now seeing the whole trial, and we'll talk about that after the break, seeing the trial and the cover-up and the corruption and how scared they are of this info coming out, I mean, that right there is the proof of the guilt.
Yeah, well, all of it is it's one piece at a time, putting the puzzle together. There are a lot of pieces, and I didn't even believe it initially until the pieces started coming together. And to me, there's no other explanation right now. None. It's not possible. So, people that...
We're going to break in a moment. Continue. Tell us what's coming up after the break. Now that you saw the trial as a lawyer, what you witnessed, he called you, and you predicted this, I remember on my show, as the only witness. You said, I wonder if he'll call me as a witness and use me as leverage. Then he does call you as the only witness. Then they give him the plea bargain deal. Then he drops you as the witness, obviously. I mean, this is like out of a Hollywood movie.
It should totally be a Hollywood movie, but again, it never will be for obvious reasons because the government and media try and cover it up. But I have a lot of questions about the plea deal because he got nothing in return and pleaded to a mandatory life sentence in prison without parole. Nobody does that, Alex. So what was he promised, or how was he threatened to make him make that plea deal?
McVeigh, his supposed accomplice Nichols signed a sworn affidavit, and we've confirmed separate parts of it from other witnesses that McVeigh was a U.S. government agent, was told he was setting up militias, thought it was a bombing sting. When the bombing was going to go forward, he threw a fit. So they just set him up, and they told him they'd kill his whole family if he spoke out.
Yeah, maybe there's something like that going on here. I don't know, but I'm just saying the plea deal stinks. I don't know why it happened, but it happened 5 days after he said that he was going to call me as his only witness. And he takes a plea deal with nothing in return. He reads a statement that sounded like it was written by somebody at the Pentagon. It used words that I don't even think he knew what he was saying. It was the perfect propaganda statement that he made when he took his plea deal, if you ask me.
And the propaganda, the sophisticated packaging, the PR rollout is always the signature of a false flag. For those that don't know, the New York Times and CBS News in 1993 reported that the FBI did cook the bomb, train the drivers, give them the detonators, and order the bombing of the World Trade Center using two low-grade moron, mentally ill people. And that could also be what this is. Matalu, of course, looks drugged most of the time. We'll discuss what this means straight ahead and the new patsies they're setting up. I'm here live Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. That's 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern. Back Sundays 4 to 6 Central. That'd be 2 to 4 Pacific, 3 to 5 Mountain. Coming up, Jim Mars is going to be with us here on location at the historic and beautiful Lakewood Theater in Dallas, Texas. And unfortunately, this place only holds 800 people. It happened again. Every event I've ever had sold out. Sold out. I'm going to be giving a speech, Blueprint to Defeat the New World Order. and I am also going to be premiering a film, and Jim Mars is going to be speaking, and then I'm going to be in Orlando next week, and those tickets, that venue holds over 1,000. I've only got a couple hundred left. Find out more at Infowars.com/events. I also have coming up David Sardi, who was one of the big stars of the reality TV show Preppers, Doomsday Preppers. He went to the doctor and had medical problems. They said, your guns are now confiscated. They're taking veterans' guns. They're taking people's guns who have surgery. They're saying, well, you might get depressed, so we're going to go ahead and take your guns. So now when you get sick, they take your guns here in Land of the Slave, Home of the Coward, until we stand up and say no to it. Of course, there's no law saying that, but they still do it because it's a criminal, out-of-control government that wants victim disarmament. Now, we've only got about 10 minutes in this segment. I'm going to try to shut up and give him the floor. But when I think about the bizarreness of the story, Kurt Haskell, survivor of the underwear bombing with your wife, you witness it all, the weird guy videotaping it. They land the plane, take you off, say there's a bomb threat. They have their other agents on the plane. It's like out of a James Bond movie. And then you say you saw him get him on the aircraft. Oh, that's ridiculous. Then they admit the government helped get him on the aircraft, but let's not discuss that. And now tell folks what you talked about in your victim's statement and other points that you think are important here on the record. Kurt Haskell.
Sure. Well, if you're a victim of a crime, you get to make what's called a victim impact statement. You basically have to say how the crime affected you physically, emotionally, or financially. And you can basically talk about whatever you want in it as to the crime. So Judge Edmonds, however, usually they're unlimited, but Judge Edmonds limited us to 5 minutes per passenger only. So I had to really make it compact. So that's kind of what I did. And I wanted to write it out ahead of time because I thought if I was just going off the top of my head, I might say some things that would get me in trouble. My speech was pretty infuriating to the judge anyway, even my pre-prepared one. But I think if I went off top of my head, I might have started yelling at the prosecution or the judge or something. So I wanted to write it up. But basically, I just went through some of the things I mentioned here, and a few other points like I was at a hearing where the prosecution indicated it didn't want to give any of the evidence to standby attorney Chambers because then passengers could subpoena the evidence from him because he didn't have attorney-client privilege and use it to sue the government. And they said they were concerned about being sued. So, I brought up in my statement, why is the government concerned about being sued in this case? What are they hiding? So I brought that up. I brought up the fact that I went to the jury questioning hearings where they're questioning all the jurors, and that Judge Edmonds kept asking them, if you realize, do you realize that sometimes the media lies to you? And Chambers kept asking them, do you think after you look at the evidence, you'll be able to tell whether something is a bomb or not? Just things like that. One thing after another, after another, after another that shows that, yeah, this was indeed an intentional plot. Along with us sitting on the plane after it landed with pieces of a bomb everywhere, nobody caring, no one checking for our safety, even though when Umar got off the plane, he said there was another bomb on board. Nobody cared. Nobody checked anywhere.
You were just props to roll out the naked body scanners so that the outgoing head of Homeland Security, Lord Chertoff, can make some money. The guy that ordered the naked body scanners, who then went to work for the company to get the payoff.
We're pawns in a big chess game. Nobody cared about us at all. But, looking back, it's pretty obvious that they knew there weren't any concerns because it was a defective bomb. They knew it was a defective bomb. They knew there weren't any accomplices other than the ones in the U.S. government. They knew there weren't any other bombs on board, even though Umar said there was as he got off. And they knew we weren't in any danger with pieces of the bomb sitting everywhere as passengers trampled through it when we got off the plane. So, looking back at it, I think it's very clear what went on, at least to me. And, I said that in my victim impact statement. And Judge Edmonds was not happy with me. I was done with it, and she scowled at me, and then she said, my wife Lori had the next statement after I did, and she said, Ms. Haskell, I'm sure you're not going to say anything about a government conspiracy like your husband just did before you get up here, kind of intimidating her, which I think was
Have
wrong.
you ever heard of a judge admonishing a victim before they have their statement?